In the instance of my colleague that was attacked, I mean, my goodness, she's coming downstairs from her apartment. You have a crazy man that goes in, has a criminal history, should have been locked up prior, and yet he wasn't. And I just want to know why, because I understand that if that was your wife or that was your child, I assume that you would have pressed charges. Would you have not?
So I understand the concern for the community and keeping all of our fellow community members safe. We are prosecuting the individual you're referencing.
But he had a track record, and he was allowed back on the streets, and those actions that were taken against him were clearly not done in a way that caused him to understand that he can no longer do that. This person was a disturbed individual. He should have been given a more harsher sentence. My question is would you have allowed that to happen if that was your wife or your child? Yes or no?
So
Is a yes or no?
So it's not a yes or no question?
It is a yes or no, because you have people that are directly being impacted and hurt by these people, and you're failing to do your job. Just like Representative Bigg had asked you for your perspective on a case where someone was obviously being charged with a more harsher sentence than they deserved, and yet you're sitting here trying to argue that when people clearly don't feel safe. People are arguing about statehood. Statehood, fine, if a city can actually manage cases, but the city can't even prosecute adolescents cases. And that is your responsibility. So I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but what I am asking is for you to do your job and make people feel safe, especially those that are depending on you to do it. When you see cases of, 48% increase in sexual assault cases, my goodness.
So
That's it. I've heard enough. Chairman, I yield my time.
Congresswoman,
Thank you.
Congresswoman, may I address your question about sexual abuse? I know the chief wants to talk about her.
We only have 26 seconds left, but
We do have a lot to say about that, and when time allows.
I will contact your office.
Thank you.
Lady yields back.
As a former D.C. resident and as someone who has lived through this issue for the past few years, as Mayor Bowser and the city attorney here continue to make us unsafe, I'm actually really prevalent to the story that she is discussing, where a disturbed individual got into an apartment complex in Northwest D.C. and violently attacked a woman as she left her room with her dog. Was a horrifying situation, a very scary situation, because that building is a very nice building here in D.C. It's a very expensive building, and usually with that comes security features and other things that most of these people, having lived in one before myself, have dealt with. Swiping in through doors, swiping up elevators, a front desk person asking who you are. And so to me, it's shocking. It really is shocking, because Mayor Bowser and the D.C. Council are destroying the city. They're destroying Washington, D.C. It's getting more and more dangerous. In fact, a few weeks ago, I happened to walk up upon a stabbing myself and missed it by about 5 minutes. Luckily, the female who was stabbed was okay, but it was a man jumping out of the bushes right outside Georgetown. It's a very scary situation to walk up on when about 2 hours earlier, about 2 blocks away, there was a carjacking at a red light. And this is actually now going into Virginia. I'm on the Virginia side of what I'm talking about here. And so it's starting to creep across into Virginia too. And the whole DMV is being affected. The whole, Northern Virginia situation, Southern Maryland and downtown DC are really being impacted by this. And the absolute horrible decisions being made by Mayor Bowser and her incompetent staff. And I have a lot of personal stories they won't get into, but they are destroying what was, once a pretty decent city here. And it's going to ruin the tourism industry. It's going to ruin sports games, because there was a shooting a few years ago outside Nat Stadium. There's a problem here. We have a massive problem here in Washington, D.C., and that deals with crime. I mean, not even jokingly talk about members of Congress and crimes there. I mean, these are serious offenses happening, and there's so many documents that I've heard of and had to watch out for, and men following women home late at night in typically safe neighborhoods that are starting to turn shootings where gang members are just driving down some of the most expensive neighborhoods and usually the safest neighborhoods in D.C. and shooting out windows during peak food service at night on Sunday evening brunch. It's a very scary situation, and I've had some personal friends with some close calls themselves as well. And to me, I sit here and I know that they don't have the answer, because I've lived under them and they're incompetent as anything. I'm so glad I'm out of the city, but now it looks like crime is starting to really spread in the area and move closer to where I live now, which is kind of scary. So my whole thing on this is thank you, Anna Paulina Luna, for your your words, because no, we don't feel safe here in Washington, D.C. anymore. I don't go downtown at all anymore. I don't feel safe. And if I do, it's straight back and forth in Uber. I don't bar hop. I don't do it anymore. This is a very scary situation that's getting worse in D.C. And of course, the D.C. AG has nothing to say because it is his fault, because he and the rest of the D.C. council are weak on crime and weak on putting people behind bars who deserve to be behind bars.